What's going on, folks? This is Colion Noir joining you for another episode of See 'em Live on this wonderful Thursday afternoon. And, you know, I got to say, when I started reviewing firearms on my YouTube channel, no one warned me about the onslaught that was to be the trolls and the people who didn't agree with you and anybody who had a countering opinion about how you felt on a certain gun. And I always got to warn people, look, the internet is a dangerous place. Anytime you put your opinion out there, there's going to be a ton of people out there who disagree with you and have no hesitation in letting you know how much you suck as a person because they didn't agree with your stance on a particular firearm. And that doesn't only live in the world of me doing my video reviews, but also in the world of writing firearm reviews as well. So joining me today is Keith Woods. He is a freelance firearms writer. What's going on, Keith?
Not much. How you doing, Colin?
I'm doing pretty good, you know, in many ways, I can relate to what you do from a writing standpoint versus what I do from a video standpoint. And I've written a few firearm reviews as well. And since I tend to script my videos as well, you know, I guess that is a form of writing, more or less.
Right, obviously.
Yeah. So how long have you been writing?
I think it's probably been 7 or 8 years.
Yeah.
Started out, I was actually an NRA employee years ago in Iowa doing political stuff. And it's one of those things, you read gun magazines for years and you always think, I could do that, I could do better. And got to know some guys in publications and started submitting things to them and they just tore it apart. You think it's good until their red pen comes out. And I kept at it and got better and better. And then I got to the point where they said, okay, you're good.
Yeah.
You've got the quality there, but now we can't publish you because people are going to think we did it because we're friends. So you've got to go out and find somebody else. And I did that, and then kind of the rest has been history.
Yeah, well, see, I just turned on a camera and just started talking.
That was smart. There was no YouTube. I could have invented YouTube back then, been retired by now. And
right. I mean, if you looked at some of my earlier videos, they were. I wouldn't say they were bad. They were just really rough.
There's a learning curve in anything.
Yeah, and I think people don't understand that. I think, well, you just talk about guns. I mean, what more is there to say? But I think there's an art form to writing about guns in a way that makes it, that allows you to make it interesting. And
to do it with credibility.
Exactly.
I mean, anybody can write about, can do a puff piece that sounds like came out of the marketing department of one of the gun manufacturers. That's easy.
Yeah.
And when I started out, I was so used to reading that kind of thing that that's what I thought I had to do. And then I got a little more into it and developed a little more confidence and a little more style and started pushing the envelope a little bit, and kind of to my surprise, the editors liked it.
Yeah. So how did you go about finding that style? Was it something that just kind of came up out of nowhere, or is it something you kind of developed over time? Part
of it's just natural.
Yeah.
And I think if you kind of write the way you speak, and if you speak candidly, and one of my, for good or for bad, I speak candidly, it's going to come across. The key is you can't just say this gun's a piece of junk. You've got to say why. You've got to articulate that. And if you do that fairly and consistently, I think that's going to come through to the readers. The guys that every gun's the greatest thing they've ever seen. You can read 3 or 4 reviews and know who those guys are. Oh yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things I've always tried to strike a balance between, like, a lot of people will ask me, "Did you like that gun? Did you not like the gun?" Sometimes it's not. A lot of times it's not that easy because for me there are so many different aspects of the gun that I like a lot, and then there are other parts where I'm like, I hate this. And sometimes that hate overshadows the good, and then I can say, you know what, I don't really care for the gun. But in a lot of ways, I felt like also I can say, you know what, I like this gun for this particular reason and this purpose, and somebody else in the same situation may like it as well. But I think some people miss the subtleties in those distinctions sometimes. I wonder, do you ever experience that with your writing? Absolutely. I mean, things are taken totally out of context. And for maybe I'm lucky, I don't do any social media for a lot of reasons.
You are lucky.
So, there could be probably people screaming on their couches, and I never get that feedback because they don't have any way to reach me unless they come to the house.
Yeah.
But no, there's absolutely that. I mean, I'll write something, and or you'll say something, that the 308 came out of the 30-06. I don't mean it literally was developed from 50 pages of comments on the article saying, no, that was the 300 Savage. I'm like, I get it.
Yeah.
I was trying to, I can't have 5,000 words here to write this article.
Exactly.
So totally taken out of context. And some is just preference. I mean, they make different car brands, they make different gun brands. Women have different color hair. We all have our preferences, and that doesn't mean it's right or wrong.
No, absolutely, and that's another thing too. It's like we largely are writing it. Like there are some aspects of the gun that I think that are generally objective, but I think largely, I think like you pointed out, you can't just say I hate this gun. You got to tell why you hate the gun, because somebody needs to understand the context in which you hate the gun, because that's your subjective opinion in some respects.
That's
so
right.
then I can listen when you formulate the reason why. I can I can take that and say okay. All right, that makes a lot of sense from that standpoint, and then I can apply it to myself and see if I'm within that same context. So I think that's that was a really good point that you made with respect to that. What do you find is the hardest aspect when it comes to writing about guns?
A lot of times it's finding something new to say about something that, another AR or I had an article recently, and it was about the new MOS Glocks that come capable. You can put a RMR or some optical sight on them. And I wrote mainly about the virtues of having an optic on a Glock, because I didn't really think it was necessary to go over what was new about a Glock 17 that's been around since I was in elementary school. And of course, a letter comes in, I want to hear more about the Glock, I want to hear more about the gun, and the guy totally disagreed with my premise, which is fine. And in my response, which of course this is like 1980s response, no social media, it had to be printed in the magazine back and forth. But I said, look, I hate that you disagree with the concept. As for the review, I didn't think there was much to be said about a gun that's been around for, probably Reagan was president when that gun came out.
So, I had a friend of mine, and I kind of talk back. We talk back and forth when I'm actually doing gun reviews and things of that nature. Like I'm trying to formulate angles and concepts just to make things a little bit more interesting. And I remember he made a point of saying, Colion, no one really honestly wants to hear a critique of the gun that you're reviewing. They just want to hear somebody say something to them that they already believe about the gun. Like if they've already bought it, they just want to hear somebody say it's as good as they already believe it is.
That's right.
Do you agree with that notion?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, if they don't like it, they want you to not like it.
Yeah.
They want to project whatever their own values or opinions onto whatever it is, and that's probably just human nature.
Yeah, I think the closest analogy I can make between reviewing firearms is the car world. I watch a lot of car reviews, like a ton of them, about as much as I watch gun reviews. And I remember, like, there are some cars that I absolutely love, and it's always interesting when I hear a reviewer trash like that. Like there was a car absolutely, he trashed it. I was like my initial reaction was like, whoa, what? This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. But then 4 or 5 videos ago, when he was saying everything I agreed with, this guy was a genius. Right?
You got to take it both ways. And there are so many parallels between cars. I mean, for one, okay, we probably need a car, depending where you live, but it could be a very basic car.
Yeah.
And you probably only need, depending on what you're doing, one, maybe, I hate to say this, maybe one gun or something like that.
Yeah.
But none of us, and it could be very basic. Guess what? We don't want just a car that'll get us somewhere that works. And we don't just want one gun that'll just go bang when you pull the trigger.
Exactly.
The interesting thing for me is one of my huge pet peeves is it doesn't matter what the gun is. If it costs any more than, I don't know, $500 or $800, you get massive, hateful comments about the price of the firearm.
Oh gosh, I know that all too well.
In the car world, I remember my dad got car magazines as a kid. I don't remember the 1980 Buick Skylark that we had in the driveway being on the cover of Road and Track. You had Ferraris and Porsches. Looked like Lasort's driveway.
This is Lasort's show, by the way, if you didn't know.
Yeah.
He was on here yesterday, and he let the world know that this was his show now.
Good deal. But yeah, and then in the next breath, these same folks, they'll complain about the quality of the firearm. Either you're using MIM parts, it's polymer, whatever, as if the two are unrelated. You're not going to get a $300 handgun that was built with 100 hours of precision labor.
Absolutely.
So that's just the way the world is.
Yeah, no, and it's interesting how that works. It's like in the car world, it's almost the aspirational component. When you're looking at a $500,000 car or even $1 million car, it's understood in that context of, for many people, this is aspirational. This is we almost want to read the review just from sheer entertainment standpoint, and just to learn about it because they're geeks in that regard. And just sometimes I think we almost force the gun in this box of just functionality, and that's it. That's all it does. As long as it shoots well, shoots straight, that's all we need to know about the gun. And I'm like, no, I think the gun is a lot more than that. But I got to take a quick break really quickly. When we'll come back, I'll finish that point off, and then I kind of want to ask you about some of the trends that are going on in the industry and get your opinion on them.